I watched a documentary on TVO last night called Big Wind. It was an interesting take on the wind industry and where it was going, how it was going, and the way it was affecting people's lives, especially in rural Canada. The main issues surrounding wind, and I'd have to say from a very rudimentary standpoint, is, I think, a lot of having to do with implementation and the way wind power is implemented. I did some initial reading, and there might be issues with health when it comes to the individuals that live around wind farms. There might be effects on the brain, psychological issues, noise issues. There's also the placing windmills in migratory paths. So for the large part, I think it really does come back to the whole implementation problem. Where do you place these windmills, and how do you place them? But while I don't have a detailed understanding, it's not that the documentary was that detailed either. I mean, it was basically personal accounts of having bleeding noses and disrupted sleep, and even then these things aren't proven all for a fact. They're just self-proclaimed issues having to deal with living near a windmill. Aside from those types of effects that have to do with the windmill itself, I think it's all about strategy, and it's not always about big money, which seems to be a problem as well when it comes to government subsidized placements of windmills and things like that. It also has to come down to a more distributed and democratic approach to clean energy. So maybe in some areas wind energy is not so good, but solar might take up the slack. Maybe there are some areas where there needs to be better consulting with governments and local residents in terms of where they place the windmills. Maybe there are innovations. Canada is famous for its economy based on innovation. Maybe there are innovations that mitigate some of the problems with existing windmills or the building of new ones. Now, I'm not saying these windmills are easy to change over or anything like that. They do weigh about 400 tons and are pretty damn big. But what I am saying is that the road to renewable energy and sustainable energy isn't always going to be perfect. I think in the documentary, going back to the documentary Big Wind, there was this sort of tied down notion of wind, as if wind is inherently big business, big government, and biologically harmful in some way, which they didn't really prove. It was just kind of personal accounts, but there was no hard evidence. And even if you look it up, you won't find hard evidence saying that the windmills have bad effects on individuals in the biological or the health sense. So that's still out. I think I'll do more reading on that, but even then, it's still just an issue of either fixing windmills or fixing the way wind is gathered. I mean, wind has been used for hundreds of years as a source of energy. Mills, and that's where the word comes from, right? Windmill. So it's traditionally been used. So I mean, why can't it be used for furtherance now or for advancement? And why can't these tiny bugs be worked out? I'm sure they can, and if not now, in the near future. As far as I know, big wind is, I don't want to call it big wind, but I mean, wind energy is kind of gaining momentum. Solar is too, obviously. It's becoming cheaper and cheaper to generate solar energy. So I'm not saying that wind is necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying overall there should be a more distributed, sort of networked, decentralized understanding of how clean energy is implemented and how it works and how it contributes to the grid. Those are my feelings on clean energy, and especially wind. So, yeah, I just feel that we shouldn't tie it down. We shouldn't get rid of windmills just yet and say that wind is inherently bad. it is a sustainable, you know, probably not completely financially yet, but obviously in terms of, ecologically and environmentally, it's a sustainable form of energy. So it's not, let's not tie it down just yet. Anyway, that's all. Bye.